No, we've been talking about this for a long, long time. We've been forecasting that real estate was going to have its completion, and all that fun we had as properties were appreciating 3.5, 4% a month, not a year, but a month. And everybody congratulated themselves on being how smart they were, at cocktail parties and the happy hours were saying, "Oh my gosh, I bought a property and it's now worth $50,000 more." Well, those days are literally over. And when you go up that, you got to come down it, and it's going to correct, and that's what is coming. Now, I'm going to tell you that we're looking at the completion in the commercial real estate that is underway, and it is brutal, just brutal, and it's going to get worse. Now, this is a typical cycle. It unfolds, it takes a process, it takes a couple of years for it to go. Now, we saw this and we announced this in March of 2022. By June of 2022, if you look at most of our work, the first peak was in, and housing really was about as high as it was going to get. And that's using the median. Now, there are always outliers that one particular village in somewhere has got a huge demand and prices are going up there. That's very, very possible. We're not saying it's an absolute, but on the basic uh, program, we think that housing is pretty much done, and commercial is losing steam and taking huge, enormous losses. Let me go to my next slide here. Let's just talk about what we see, and we can make some comments. I love your comments, by the way. So let's just talk about what's going on. Now, here's the cycle. We're talking about the fact that this is an 18-year real estate cycle. It's unfolding all this fun. Now, here's the accumulation phase. This is where, now these are the two corrections, of course. This is 2019, and just as of 2020, we got into the COVID problem, and that started the accumulation phase. And people who bought here made an absolute fortune. And then this is the explosive phase. This is where you're talking about at the cocktail parties and at the happy hours and slapping each other on the back, telling you how smart you were. This is where homes are going up at 3.5, 4% a month, not a year, but a month. Just unsustainable appreciations. And then they get to the top, and this is where we're at now. It isn't really a peak. It's kind of an area, it kind of rolls over. It's just kind of a rounding here. Sometimes it plateaus. Sometimes you'll get a series of peaks. But what is certain is that it's going to come down this side here, and it's going to come down the same way it went up. It's going to come down 2.5, 3.5% a month. And some of these places are going to be devastated. And that is just the nature of the business. We have a business cycle, we have a liquidity cycle, we have a real estate cycle. They're all connected. And of course, it's going to come down here. Now, this is where you want to buy. We have identified 3 or 4 buy opportunities here, but we're not there yet. So this is a timing. This is my warning to you that I'm not telling you not to buy. I'm telling you that better pricing is probably coming. And I think that you can probably make some better buys that are coming. So if you buy here at the top and you're a first-time home buyer, that can be devastating for you. So I know it was very difficult for first-time home buyers to get in here. This is where all the cash buyers were. This is where the iBuyers were at. And they were excluding the first-time home buyers. I mean, if you have someone that's going to pay you cash, or you have someone who's going to pay with an FHA, they're going to get appraised and they're going to have to go through qualification. Everybody took the cash. That's just what happened. So they couldn't get in, and now they're going to get in, and we're going to make it easier for them. And of course, we're right here at the completions, and this could be devastating for a first-time home buyer. It literally could take you 5 to 10 years to make up any kind of losses, because you put 3.5% here and you lose 30% here. Well, you're severely underwater, and that would be my concern for you. So let me go to my next slide here. Now, this is what's going on now. You just have to understand that this is what's going on now, right now. We've got $11 trillion of commercial real estate at risk. 11 trillion. Just think of that. Now, we put $6 or $7 trillion into the economy right after COVID. We just put all kinds of money in, and look what happened. We had this enormous inflationary phase that came in. Now, what do you suppose is going to happen when we take $11 trillion out? The opposite is going to happen on that. The absolute opposite is going to happen. So let me go to my next slide, and let's just take a look at what we're talking about. Now, someone is going to take enormous losses. So when you take $11 trillion out of the economy, that means all the fuel that ran everything is gone. And now you're stuck with all kinds of payments that you can't make, and enormous losses will follow. Now, this is just part of the process, but it's going to happen. So if you're over leveraged and your job goes away, you are done. You are a casualty. You're collateral damage in the closing of this, and you're going to have problems. Now, look, we've talked about this before. This is worse than when we talked about it, 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. We have 5 to 10 towers, 40, 50, 60-story buildings, office buildings at risk a month of default every month, 5 to 10. Now, it's already happening. We've outlined many of these that were, appraised for $605 million. They've got, $400 million worth of debt on them, and the thing sells for $175 million, and they take $400 million in losses. Well, when someone takes losses, someone has to realize those losses. And of course, it's a lot of the small banks and mid banks that are doing this. But we have over 1 billion. You get that 1 billion square feet of vacant office space and growing. A lot of the S&P 500 companies don't have anyone going to the offices, but they're paying the rent because they have a lease. They took lease for 5 or 10 years, and when that 5 or 10 years expires, they're not going to renew the lease. And it's 1 billion square feet of vacant office space, plus all of the new that takes 2 or 3 years to build. Remember that in 2001, it was a great idea let's build a 40-story office building because there's so much demand. Well, here we are 3 or 4 years later when it's being completed, not so much demand. And of course, this is going to go from 1 billion to probably $1.5 billion, and someone is going to take a lot of loss. I'm going to tell you, I was here in Phoenix in 2006, 7, and 8. Actually, I've been here since the early 1980s, so I'm like a walking historian. But I'm going to tell you, in 2005, I've talked to you about this before. In 2005, you couldn't find anything. Business was just going crazy. 2006 was the very bottom. There was 2,936 listings available in March of 2006. And in March of 2007, there were 33,000 properties available. It went up 30,000 in 12 months. Now, let's just talk about what happened in Phoenix in 2008. Because Phoenix was a construction town. Everybody was related to construction. We were just booming. So in 2006, we built 65,000 homes. That was a record. We've never done that again. 65,000 homes were built. There were literally subdivisions everywhere and just specs absolutely everywhere, because 2006, I just told you, was rolling over. So from March 2006, 2,900 homes. 1 year later, 33,000 homes. That's what happened to the builders. They got caught. Everyone was associated with the trades. Everybody was literally getting rich in Phoenix in 2005 and early 2006. Anybody associated with it, I'm going to tell you, everybody was associated with it. Any trade person could work all the hours they wanted. They were commanding big dollars, and they could get side work virtually anywhere. You couldn't get a worker. You couldn't get a carpenter. You couldn't get a roofer. You couldn't get a trim. You couldn't get a plumber, because they could just name their hours, name their price. It was wonderful. They were making a lot of money. It was just good for them. And everyone became a general contractor because it was so easy to sell stuff. Money was available. You could become a general contractor. If you had an idea and you had a lot, you could get it built on. I even did a couple myself. I knew nothing about contractors. I hired a contractor and he built a couple for me, and I made a lot of money. You can make $300,000 building a nice luxury home. And I did a few of those. Those were great, but I didn't build them, but I hired a general to do that for me and made a lot of money. Everyone was doing this. Everyone's a general contractor or a flipper. Money was plentiful. Then everything stopped. Literally, everything stopped. Now, I was working for some builders, and I'm going to tell you that it stopped. They got a call from their lenders, and the lenders said no more money. And when lenders said no more money, it was over with. And why do you suppose the lenders said no more money? Because they were taking losses. And because they were taking losses, they weren't going to take any more. And they could see the writing on the wall. And once that money stopped, everyone in the trades, everyone associated with building stopped. So all the builders were left with unfinished product because they couldn't get any more draws. Literally, the lenders called them and said, you're done. It's over with. And they're not doing any more. So if you were a framer and you were building for a builder or a general contractor, and you bought all that lumber from a lumber yard, and you had your crews out there and you were framing, and then you get the call that said, you're done. We're not doing any more. Well, you couldn't pay for lumber that was in that building because you were out on a draw, and you couldn't pay any more. You couldn't pay your framers. The plumbers are the same way. If you're a cabinet shop and you were building cabinets, now a lot of people, they were out 3 and 4 and 5 months with their generals. You're building a subdivision. They've got 100 houses. They got 50 that are in completion, and they're waiting for it to get paid. They got done. So if you were a cabinet maker, you were out of business. Your supplier was out of business. Your workers were out of business. Same with the plumbers and electricians. Anything that they did on there, they didn't get paid for. And what happened? What happened? Let me go to my next slide. Let's just talk about that. This is what happened. So here we were in Phoenix in 2006. We peaked at $292,061. That's where it peaked. And actually, it wasn't. That's an index. It's not the price. So it's 296 is on index. This is an all transaction house price. So in 2006, it peaked, and I just pulled this out. So by second quarter of 2010, it had lost from 292 to 164, almost 40% loss. It went from here to here in 4 years. And if you'd have bought here, you were in trouble. And lots of people did. They were so excited to get it. They were clapping themselves on the back saying, I finally got one. And they bought at the peak. And this is what happened. This is what happened in Phoenix. It's not going to happen again this time. We are not going to wear this crown. But you could see it coming down. And it was inevitable that that was going to happen. That is inevitable that this is going to happen now. Now, where should you have bought? This is what the whole series of my YouTubes is for. Don't buy now unless you absolutely have to. Look at this. Where should you have bought? You probably should have bought right down here. This is where a lot of good properties were at, or even down here. There's a lot of foreclosures and short sales that were available here, and then it bottomed like here in 2010. But by the time 2010 got along, a lot of the Wall Street places had already just snapped up thousands and thousands of homes. So probably need to buy somewhere along here. If you'd bought anywhere from here down, you were just going to be fine. Let me go to my next slide and let's just talk about this. Now, Phoenix is not going to wear the crown, but the other places may very well. I'm talking about Austin. I'm talking about Dallas. I'm talking about Houston. How about Fort Myers or Jacksonville or in the Florida Panhandle? These places are way ahead of themselves. They're great, great markets. I love them, but they're way ahead of themselves. And they are heading for a huge, huge correction. Going to be a great buying opportunity. We're telling everyone, save your money because we're going to make a lot of money. But it's time to be cautious. You know, this capital is sacred capital. We don't get a shot at it very often. You know, we don't want to lose $100,000. I don't want to lose $50,000 or my down payment. I don't want my kids or my family's friends to put an FHA 3.8%, be so excited and have the property go down 30%. So they put $12,000 down on a $300,000 house, and the house drops to $200,000. And they've lost $100,000 that they don't have. They'll probably foreclose it or short sell it, and their credit will be ruined for years and years and years, and they'll be scarred. Just wait. And they'll put $4,000 or $12,000 down, and the price of the house will go up $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and you'll double or triple your money. That's fun. This will not be. And we're talking about that. We are looking it right in the eye. Now, I am not negative. I want to tell you that I feel really, really good. I think we're going to make a lot of money. I think the markets are going really, really well, particularly here in Phoenix, Arizona. You go to, this is where I am at with West USA. They're a $6 billion firm. They keep us in compliance and do all our back office work. But I'm telling you, Phoenix, Arizona is not going to wear the crown. So business goes, appreciation goes where jobs are at. Now here in Phoenix, Arizona, we've got chip manufacturers. We're becoming like the chip manufacturing center for the United States. We've got the Taiwanese semiconductor plant here with 32 plants under construction. We've got Intel. We've got 4 or 5 other chip manufacturers. We've got hundreds of acres of technological business parks coming. We've got the defense contractors. We have Nestle's. We've got Sub-Zero Wolf. We've got Amazon. We've got business and jobs like crazy, and we're not construction related. But if you're in Florida and you're in Texas, you're a construction town. We were a construction town. And when the construction went away, where did the construction workers go? They left. So when our markets fell apart in 2007 and 8, we lost 200,000 construction workers and all the business that went along with them. 200,000 workers and their families left because they didn't have jobs anymore. And all the grocery stores took a shellacking. The retail stores took a shellacking. You know, all the landlords, there's vacancy everywhere because we lost population. And in those states that are losing population, like California, like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, they are going to experience an even worse outflow of population because when it gets bad, people are going to vote with their feet and go where it's better. So Phoenix, Arizona, where we're at, probably one of the best markets literally in the world. We're way under recognized. We are going to do okay. We're not going to be immune, but we're going to do okay. Be a great place for you to put some money. If you're in Seattle or if you're in Portland and you want to get out of there, or Los Angeles or San Francisco, do a 1031 exchange. Give us a call. We'll place you sell that here and we'll place something really, really good here with lots and lots of potential because we have lots and lots of potential here. If I can help in any way, I'm more than happy to consult. I'm fairly inexpensive. I've been around the block a lot of times and I'm more than happy to sit down. Let's figure out what's best for you. You're welcome to call me at my office. I'd love to have your business, my very best. And I'm going to tell you this, my very, very best to you. Bye-bye now.